Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just going to give it a few minutes to wait for more people to join, and then we'll get started. So bear with us. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. It's always really amazing for us to be able to have like these slightly more intimate chats with all of you. My name's Jess. I'm from Standing Together, and today you're going to meet 4 members of our national leadership. And today's focus is really talking about grassroots organizing. So we'll be talking about organizing on the level of student chapters and organizing on the level of municipal politics. And how we can really organize our communities in order to create a new majority in our society, and how it takes time and it is long and it requires long-term thinking and strategy, but that it's entirely possible, and we have real, facts on the ground that are showing that it is working and it is growing. So today I want to introduce you guys to Angela, Omri, Sally, and Itamar, who will all come and say a few words about themselves now.
Hello, everybody. My name is Angela. I'm a 24 student, a medical and biomedical student. And I'm an activist at Standing Together. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, I'm Omri, and I am 25, and I am taking part in Standing Together for 6 years already, and now I am the head of the student department.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sally Abed. I am part of the national leadership. I am a member of Haifa's municipality as of February. And yeah, I've been with the movement for a while now. Very happy to be here with you. And very recently, I also earned the title of mom. So excuse me if I have to go suddenly or something like that. So just in advance, thank you for having me.
Hello, everybody. It's very nice to be here. My name is Itamar. I'm 39 years old. I'm from Tel Aviv. I'm one of the founding members of Standing Together, and I'm a member of the City Council here in Tel Aviv, Yaffa. Very happy to be here.
Just a note that at any point, we would like to invite you to send questions into the chat on the StreamYard. You can also send questions to the live on Instagram, but you will have a bigger chance of your questions being answered on the StreamYard. So if you can send them on the chat, we will be able to answer a few questions towards the end. We are going to start with a video. Okay, small Okay, that's great. But that was a video that we uploaded to our social media in English, in Arabic, and Hebrew. And as you can see, Angela is in the video, and she's here with us today. So I'd like you to please explain, Angela, what's happening in the video and what events led up to that exact moment, and kind of what does that say about the struggle faced by Palestinian students in Israel?
Thank you for the question, Jess. In this video, you see me, Angela, a Palestinian student, trying to make my voice heard. What you're witnessing is not just my personal experience, but a representation of the systemic silencing faced by Palestinian students in Israeli universities, especially in the wake of the events of October 7. It all began when I went to the Knesset. You see me there in the Knesset to speak on behalf of Palestinian students whose struggles have only deepened under increasing political persecution and silencing tactics. Two dangerous laws currently debated in the Knesset. The first law would allow university administrators to fire academic staff for so-called incitement or support for terrorism, terms that are loosely and politically defined. It essentially enables institutions to silence any critical or dissenting voices, and universities that refuse to enforce this face severe budget cuts, and this is dangerous. The second law targets students like me, empowering universities to expel those accused of vaguely defined, I repeat, terror-supportive activities. This could include waving a Palestinian flag, for instance, or voicing political opinions critical of the government. It also mandates the dissolution of student groups tied to these so-called activities. Now, let's be honest. This is not about fighting terrorism. It is about suppressing dissent, silencing those who challenge the status quo, and deepening the marginalization of minorities. As the president of Tel Aviv University stated in the Knesset in the same hearing, these proposals are incitement against Arabs. They aim to make Palestinian students and their identity invisible in our own classrooms, our own campuses. And that's why I really felt compelled to attend the Knesset hearing, to fight for safe, equal campuses where Palestinian and Jewish students alike can thrive. But when I got there, I experienced firsthand the systemic silencing. After waiting 3 hours for the opportunity to speak, the committee chair intentionally refused to allow any Arab student voices to address the room. So I asked, why? Why our voices aren't being heard? And I was polite. I was immediately dismissed, literally and figuratively. Security guards forcibly removed me, 3 or 4 of them attacking me as if I were a threat, simply for asserting my right to speak. It wasn't just an attempt to silence me. It felt like, actually, to be honest, it felt like an attack on my very existence as a Palestinian woman trying to advocate for justice. Now, for students in general and for Palestinian students, this is not a hypothetical threat. It is an attack on our very right to exist and speak on campus. Palestinian students in Israeli universities already, since October 7th, face constant surveillance, intimidation, and discrimination. These proposed laws will commit that oppression criminalizing expressions of our identity, like the kufiye, for instance, and stifling our voices under the name of security. This moment in the video that you have just witnessed is more than a personal struggle. It is emblematic of the broader fight Palestinian students face every day to have our voices heard, to live and study without fear, and to resist the erasure of our identity and rights. It's a fight for academic freedom, for democracy, and for equality in a system that is trying to marginalize us at every turn. So I hope this answers all the parts of your question, Jess.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I also wanted to ask you, what role do you personally think that university campuses and students in general have to play in politics and the overall kind of national conversation?
I genuinely believe that university campuses are essential spaces in any national conversation because they are where ideas, debates, and critical thinking take shape. But in Israel, they also reveal the deep inequalities and struggles within our society. For students, not only Palestinians, these campuses are not just academic institutions. They are one of the few places where we can attempt to assert our identity, share our narratives, and maybe resist systemic silencing. When these spaces are stifled, as seen through the proposed laws and daily political persecution, it doesn't just harm Palestinian students. In my opinion, it also weakens the entire foundation of Israeli democracy. So the struggle in campuses is more than an academic issue. It's a national issue. They echo broader patterns of inequality and exclusion in Israel. So if university spaces are allowed to become places of surveillance, fear, and political persecution, so tell me, everyone, what hope is there for a wider society to uphold freedom, equality, or democratic values? The importance of these spaces lies in their potential to challenge the status quo and foster conversations that society might avoid elsewhere. When we advocate for safe, inclusive, and equal campuses, as we do in Standing Together, we are fighting for a model of coexistence and mutual respect. And I mean by coexistence, a true coexistence, where both identities are acknowledged, that should define the national conversation, not just within the university walls, but across the country. So silencing these spaces senses progress, and that's a loss for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. Again, if anyone has like a question specifically about student activism or even a question specifically to Angela, feel free to send it in the chat, and hopefully we'll be able to answer it at the end. Aubrey, I wanted to ask you a question. As kind of someone who has, I guess, a bit of a more overall, you're dealing with a lot of the different student chapters. I want to talk about building power. How do you see the campus chapters as a way to build power on university campuses? And how are you practically organizing and building new majorities on campus?
So first, I want to say, except all the things that Angela said before, the campuses is the first place that Jewish and Palestinians inside of Israel meet each other. We live in, for example, I grew up in Ramat Gan, and in Ramat Gan there are no Arabs, and the opposite. So for so many Israelis, this is the university is the first and maybe the only time in their life that they are in the same place, Palestinians and Jewish inside of Israel. So it's a very important place for us. I think that we have student groups all around Israel, from the north, Tel Hai, the border of Lebanon, until Eilat, the border with Egypt, and I think we have some ways to build power inside the campuses. First, community. We have Jewish and Palestinian communities that eating together, celebrate holidays, speaks about the fears, about the political ideas. So just groups that meet each other and become a community. So this is one way that we organize people, one way to organize people and build power. The second method is to lead struggles about local interest of students. For example, can you hear me? Yes, okay. So we have struggles on local interest. For example, I studied in the Hebrew University, and in the Hebrew University there are 5,000 students that live in the dorms. Half of them Jewish and half of them Palestinians, and the conditions in the dorms are really bad. The prices are high, the rooms are really bad, and we had a lot of struggles to improve Jewish and Arab that acting together to improve our conditions in the dorms. And this is only one example. We did it on a lot of subjects like public transportations, and to talk about the common interests of all the students. And when we win it, so a lot of people, a lot of students believe in the idea that if Jewish and Arab will act together, we can improve our life. And like our society is not Jewish against Palestinians. It's most of us against the people that don't have the same interest as we have. One more, we actually have like two more main
He's coming back in a bit.
ways to build power. Struggle for. Oh, now can you hear me again? I'm sorry. So one, the two more ways is one, to bring the struggle for peace, for ending the war, for ending the occupation to the campuses. For example, we had some lectures about what's happening in Gaza, in the Hebrew University, in Tel Aviv University, all around Israel, in all the campuses in Israel. And this is one more way. And the last way is to talk about, like Angela said, about equality inside the campuses. The freedom of speech, or for example, in a lot of universities, there we have like the university, there is like no school, only in Jewish holidays, and not on like Christian and Muslim holidays. And we are doing struggles on equality inside of the campuses. So these are the four ways to build power inside the campuses.
Thank you so much, Omri. A reminder to everyone that you can send questions that you have for Angela or Omri throughout the next section of our chat. And also, we are currently in the middle of our end of year crowdfunding campaign. You can access the crowdfunding campaign through the QR code on the screen. So if at any point you feel like making a donation or even just sharing the link on your social media or with friends and family, essentially all donations help us be more financially independent and enable us to grow the organizing that we do on the ground on student chapters and local chapters. So it really has a direct impact on the types of work that Omri and Angela are involved in. Thank you again, Omri and Angela. And we are going to move on to talk to Sally and Itamar.
All right.
Hi.
Hi, Jess.
Hello again.
Maybe did you guys want to just say a few words about yourselves again, just to remind everyone who you are? And then I have a few questions for you.
Please.
No, Sally, please continue.
Okay.
You should start.
Okay. A little bit about myself. I live in Haifa. We have been, Itamar and I have been part of standing together for, well, Itamar has been from the very, very beginning. And we were actually part of the strategic process of the movement of where it needs to go in terms of ecosystem. And we were all fantasizing of how we can actually branch out the ecosystem into a wider, more different kind of movements. And both of us actually were part of the two successful movements that were let's say, incubated from standing together, however, separate and independent, one in Tel Aviv Yaffa and one in Haifa. I'm part of the founders of Haifa's majority, أغلبية البلد, ربع عير, which ran into elections in municipality, and I have been elected as a council member. I am 32. I am a mom to a 3-month-old, Shams, and I am currently in Ma'alya to celebrate the holidays with my family, and it's on the Lebanese borders, so I do apologize. I feel like the internet is not very good. I do hope that you hear me well. Yeah, it's been a very humbling experience to go through all of this, not just as an organizer, but as a mother, which I hope I will share later.
Before I present myself, what Sally should have said is that she's the first Palestinian woman to lead a joint Palestinian-Jewish list in municipal elections in Israel ever, and she won, which is amazing. My name is Itamar. I'm part of Standing Together from the very beginning in 2015. I'm 39 years old. I live in Tel Aviv, Jaffa. And just like Sally, I ran in the last municipal elections here. We won 3 seats, and I'm currently part of the Tel Aviv Jaffa City Council.
Thank you. So I guess that the question on a lot of people's minds in the current political climate within Israel is how on earth the two of you, running with Jewish Arab parties, with progressive platforms, actually managed to make it onto the local city council with thousands of votes. How did you do it?
I mean, I do think, this conversation is a lot about hope, about organizing, about building hope through struggle and through organizing. We do need to acknowledge, the unimaginable and quite paralyzing, reality that we are witnessing nowadays. It is paralyzing. It really is. And I think one of the most radical things that you can do as an organizer when everything is just shuts down seemingly around you, politically, economically, socially, morally, one of the most radical, empowering things that you can do is actually take responsibility over people's lives in your community. and in your city and in your neighborhood. I think in many ways that's the power of local politics, and that's the power of communities, community-based organizing. The fact that I was able to talk about housing and about safety, about security and violence and drugs and transportation to people in the midst of the war, in the midst of sirens and war and going and cleaning shelters and opening shelters and mapping them out and signing them and being able to really lead our communities without compromising, the big picture and compromising our stand on the big picture, but also, leading and insisting on improving our lives, day-to-day lives as a community and as a binational community and bilingual community. I think that was the testimony of our theory of change, especially as municipal and local movements and local leaders.
Yeah, and I will add that for me, it's not a mystery, actually. What people should understand, and I'm talking to the crowd, of course, is that the overwhelming majority of the people here in Israel want a different future. That's not the problem. The problem is that the majority of these people, they don't believe it's possible. And so I think in the municipal elections, our list, Sally's list in Haifa, we were a proof of concept that a potential different future is possible, do exist. And then we told people that we are not going to realize it alone. We are not going to create this future alone. We are the proof of concept, and now you have to join us in order to realize that. And we also told them, listen, it's not only about your vote, it's about organizing. It's about working with us before and after the elections. And of course, some people said, well, that's nice, but naive, and we still do not believe it's possible. But many people listened, and many people said, okay, if there's a possibility, I want to be part of this opportunity to build a potential future, a potential new, different future for our society. So it's not really a mystery. It's about showing people that there is option for other future, for a different future, for our society, for our land. And it's true both for the municipality and also if we're talking about ending the occupation, ending this horrible war, and building Palestinian and Israeli peace in our land.
Thank you. We're going to move on to a video about the aid campaign that we've been doing to supply humanitarian aid in Gaza, and then we'll have a few more questions for Sally and Itamar. If anything came up of what they said just before, again, feel free to send it to the chat, and we will do our best to answer all the questions.
של משאיות, מוכיחות את זה. אני רוצה לספר לכם סיפור מטורף. זה סיפור על יהודים וערבים, ישראלים ופלסטינים, שהתגייסו יחד במאות על מנת לגייס סיוע הומניטרי לרצועת עזה. יחד פתחנו נקודות במעל ל10 ערים שונות. כל נקודה הגיעו אלפים של מתנדבים, הביאו מזון, עזרו לסדר אותו, לארגן אותו, להעביר אותו למחסנים, ובסוף, אחרי דרך קשה, להגיע לרצועת עזה. ישראלים ופלסטינים הראו סולידריות, הראו שאכפת להם ממה שקורה ליד הבית שלהם, שהם לא עוצמים עין למול המראות של הזוועה בעזה. אני זוכר את הפעם הראשונה שראיתי משאית שלנו נכנסת לעזה, שראיתי את התמונות של הסיוע שאנחנו אספנו, מחולק לאנשים שבאמת צריכים אותו. הרגע הזה הוא הרגע הכי משמעותי בכל העשייה החברתית שלי. אחרי הרגע הזה הגיעו עוד רגעים רבים של משאיות שנכנסו לעזה, וזה לא נהיה פחות מרגש. לראות את הסיוע שלנו מגיע לדרום, למרכז הרצועה, להבין שאנחנו באמת מצליחים להביא שינוי, ושלפחות כמה אנשים זוכים לעוד ארוחה בגלל מאות המשאיות שאנחנו אספנו. ויחד אנחנו מוכיחים שהעם כאן בישראל טוב יותר מהממשלה שלו, שאנחנו יכולים לחיות בשלום ליד השכנים שלנו, שמגיע לנו טוב יותר. אנחנו יכולים להביא כאן שינוי אמיתי. ומשאיות הסיוע שהבאנו, במאות של משאיות, מוכיחות את זה. מוכיחות שכשאנחנו מתאגדים ביחד, אנחנו יכולים.
So that was Suf, who was largely involved in coordinating the whole campaign. And he's been working extremely hard around the clock the entire time. Sally and Itamar, why did we as Standing Together decide to embark on this campaign, and what kind of transformation do you feel like it led to in Israeli society or in the groups of people that were exposed to the campaign?
I want to emphasize that this campaign was not merely a humanitarian one. Of course, the main driving force was to make sure that we get as much aid as possible to people in Gaza. But what is magical, I want to say, and powerful about movements is that it creates not only campaigns that mobilize, but it creates campaigns that politicize people. And I can very confidently say that this campaign was the largest mobilizing campaign of Palestinians within Israel in recent years, probably since 2021 and since the May 2021 events. That was really one of the campaigns that mobilized so many Palestinians in Israel, and not out of the blue. It was really after a very extremely difficult year of persecution and silencing, where really we saw a complete paralysis, of Palestinians in Israel, and we really saw how we were able to give them a space to not only be able to help their people in Gaza, but actually also be able to voice out their opinions, voice out their frustrations, their fears, their aspirations of the future, and also experience Jewish solidarity and Jewish partnership, which wasn't something that they did in the whole year. And I think this kind of constructive resistance, this is the resistance. It's just a complete one that is not only, demanding something or protesting something. We are resisting through constructing and through building hope and building help and building, providing this amazing and I hope life-saving, mobilization that we did for many people in Gaza. And I think, and I'll finish here, but it's important for people to understand that, this is not the first time, and this is not the first humanitarian campaign that we saw that goes into Gaza. What's special about Standing Together is exactly the intention for it not to only be humanitarian, but to actually be movement building and being, politics building, and actually resist intentionally. We are very intentional about our politics and community building, even when it comes about these things. And that's why it was so effective. And in my opinion, was very, very powerful for the in tens of thousands of people that it involved.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add that as Jewish Israeli citizen, for me, also for Standing Together, but also just for me as a person, it was, first of all, of course, about getting aid into Gaza, because the things that are happening over there in my name are terrible, and I'm against them, and I want to help the people if I can. It was also about extending my hand and standing in solidarity with my Palestinian partners inside Israel, who, as Sally said, suffer persecution right now. And I think that if we want to build a movement, we have to build a trust. And so it was important for me to be there, to help, to be part of this campaign in order to build this trust. And I think it's most of all, or at least mostly, our responsibility as Jewish citizens. But it was also about showing other Jewish Israelis that we don't have to be like that. We don't have to support the government. There is another way. And actually, when I hear ministers in our government, in the Israeli government, talking and saying that they are the real Jewish people, I mean, for me, it's amazing. I think that what we are doing is really following Jewish principles, ancient Jewish principles. And I think it's important for us as Jewish Israeli citizens to be proud of those values, of those principles, and show how to actually engage with them and stand in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank, and also inside Israel.
And just one last question before we move to the general Q&A from your questions that you guys have sent us. Standing Together in general has like different paths of action that we take, right? We do transforming from within, like in local politics, organizing protests, direct actions, locally and nationally, all sorts of things. How would you say like each of these sort of strategies are important, and how do they complement one another?
Maybe I'll say that those are all different tactics, aiming to the same mission. The mission is to build a new majority inside our society, a majority that would be powerful enough to demand and achieve what we all deserve, which is equality, social, environmental justice, and of course, Palestinian-Israeli peace. And if you want to build a new majority, you can't do it alone. You have to do it with people. And so you have to offer many different ways of participating, because there are many different people, different age, they love doing different things, etc. And so, for example, when we mobilize and demonstrating in the streets of Haifa, of Tel Aviv, of Jerusalem, and many other cities, as Sally said, it's about politicizing people, it's about showing our power, it's about giving people the sense, or actually showing people that they are part of something big, which is extremely important. But we know it's not enough. That's why we're also organizing people. People can come to our purple houses all around the country and watch a movie, learn Arabic, or maybe learn Hebrew, speak with one another, become a community, because people need a sense of community in order to build enough strength for this struggle, because this struggle is going to be very, very long. Direct action, for example, is of course also a way to tackle reality and to stop bad things from happening, just like stopping, of course, the violent settlers who are trying to stop the aid from coming into Gaza. It's also about showing our society things that the media wouldn't tell them. Almost no one knew that settlers are blocking the aid before we came there. And because we came there, the police came there. And because the police came there, the media came. And then all of a sudden, everybody knows about that. And I think that's true also for the things that we're doing in the municipalities in Haifa and in Tel Aviv, Jaffa. We are not politicians. We never said to people, just elect us and we are going to fix it all. We are organizers from within the municipalities. I'm going tomorrow for 2 meetings in the Tel Aviv Jaffa municipality, and all the questions I'm going to ask, all the remarks I already have, all the numbers that I got, all of them were brought to me by people in the movement. The idea is to build power. In order to build power, you have to engage with as many people as you can. And if you want to do that, you have to use different tactics. And this is what we are trying to do.
Yeah, I want, Itamar, you really summarized things in the different ways. And I want to take this maybe in the macro level and really, for people to really look at it. Of course, organizing is a science, right? Like deep societal change requires movements. It requires, a shift in paradigm. It requires new culture, new identity, new collective identity of who is us, who's the political protagonist, who's the voice that we speak, who are we talking on behalf of, right? It requires new songs, new symbols, new, language, the kind of language that we use, right? And these are what movements do. And obviously, standing together cannot be all of that in many ways. But it also is creating and expanding and influencing other movements and other organized groups and other NGOs, and also collaborating with them and feeding from them. And I think you need this diversity of tactics and this diversity of institutions and communities and level of interaction with people in order to get to them. And here I really want to talk maybe about why, in the politics of what does that mean, really. We are thinking as a collective in many ways. We are starting, and we're always evolving. We're always evolving through feeding through these different things. We are thinking as a collective, which is incredible. I really think in many ways, Itamar, if we remember like 5-6 years ago, we were thinking as, maybe like 10, 20, 30 core leadership that we're like thinking about the movement and what we need to do. And today, standing together is an organism that is so much bigger than us, that is collectively evolving and kind of imagining the new protagonist for this place and what it looks like. Because it's led by people who are not apologetic about their love for this land and about their love for this society and for the people on it. But they are also not apologetic about wanting to change it. And I think the main thing that we want to do is not to criticize our society and morally lecture our society, but actually take ownership over it. And really, it's a love letter to the land by love letter for the people on this land. And it's really in everything that we do. Even though it's really, you said, what's the theory of change, the different theories of change, but that's the overarching thing. We are really always not morally lecturing, but really trying to understand, under a very deep belief that everyone here strives for security and for peace and for prosperity and for a good future for everyone, that what actually matters to these people and how we can actually lead them through that. And I think that's the overarching theory of change, of standing together.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to a general Q&A from the questions that you guys have sent us on the chat. So if you have more questions, feel free to send them. We're going to aim to finish around 9, so we won't keep you for too much longer. And again, just a reminder that we are in the middle of our crowdfunding campaign. The QR code is at the top corner of the screen. It's there for me, maybe there for you. It's in one of the top corners. And if you'd like to donate to contribute to this grassroots organizing that we're doing, we would really appreciate it. And sharing goes a long way with family and friends. The more people that see that we're doing a crowdfunding campaign, the more of a chance that we're able to raise the much needed funds we need for the coming year. The first question I wanted to ask you, Itamar, is from Diana. And the question is, does the Israeli public know what is going on in Gaza? Do they see what we see in the outside world?
No. There's a blockade, there's a siege over Gaza for many years now, but there's also a media blockade over Gaza. The overwhelming majority of Jewish society in Israel has no idea what's really going on in Gaza. No one is showing us the horrible, horrible, horrible pictures and videos that you are all seeing. And in a way, it's a betrayal by our media. They should show us the truth, and they are hiding the truth from us. This is why we are trying to engage in trigger events. We are trying to do direct actions in order to push and to force the media to talk about us, but not really about us, about Gaza, about the war, about the suffering of civilians in Gaza right now. I would say there's at least one paper in Israel that is talking a little bit more about that. That would be Haaretz, of course. If you know this newspaper, I would say that the government is attacking Haaretz right now because they wouldn't want the Israeli society or the Israeli Jewish public to hear about what's going on. And I will share with you that I am deeply worried about the moment that my society will learn about what really happened in Gaza. I think it's going to be a very hard moment for our society. I think a lot of people are going to deny it. It's going to take time, but maybe when we learn about what's really going on in Gaza, that would be the start of the healing also of this society and the de-radicalization also of the Israeli society. And we have to be prepared for that.
Thank you. And Sally, we had a question from Ellen, who is a member of Friends of Standing Together in Philadelphia. And she asks, my questions are so that we in the States can answer people who are skeptical about standing together in the States on both sides. Why are Palestinians in Standing Together organizing their communities with Standing Together instead of joining more sort of anti-normalization folks? And then I guess the second part of that question is, why should mainstream Jews in the diaspora trust Standing Together? Maybe if you can sort of also just explain what anti-normalization is, just to kind of clarify that as well as part of your answer of why Palestinians in Standing Together are doing this instead of that.
Okay. I'll try to explain it without the criticism at the beginning. Anti-normalization is any activism or any kind of work that talks about, Israeli Arab or Israeli Palestinian or, Jewish Arab partnership or a fight within Israel Palestine that doesn't really acknowledge the systemic oppression, violent oppression of Palestinians for many decades now in the form of occupation, siege, apartheid, violence, incarceration, and whatnot. And that's anti-normalization. I do think that's my, that's how I see it. And I do think that anti-normalization today took a much wider, more nuanced definition, unfortunately. One where it almost is, resisting any kind of work that doesn't use, I think it's more defined by terminology now, and, the legitimacy of any fight for freedom and equality for all is defined by certain usage of terminology or certain acknowledgements or certain things that we need to say or do. It is something that we do receive a lot of criticism for. I do think Standing Together as a whole, has been going through a lot of criticism, a lot of calls for boycott. And now I'm going to answer why Palestinians in Israel do that. I think I'm going to say the obvious, but it's not very obvious. Palestinians in Israel are literally the only people, the only group of Palestinians that live in Israel. That's obvious, right? They are the only people who actually have Israeli citizenship, who experience some kind of democracy, obviously conditional, partial democracy. And we speak the language. And our society, in many ways, I can talk right now about what we endure as yet another form of systemic oppression against Palestinians. In Israel, the citizens of Israel, we experience the same things, but we also have immense privilege of being part of Israeli society and speaking the language and being citizens and being able to vote and being able to be elected. And I see that as in many ways an immense responsibility to also be able to build a new kind of will within my society. The Israeli society is my society, and I demand for it to be my society. I demand to be part of it, even though in many ways I am not seen as one. I demand to be it, and I don't only demand to be part of it, I demand to lead it. And I think in many ways that's the only way for me to be able to lead this new paradigm, this new political protagonist, to build it, to imagine it, and to really fight for equality and freedom for all, for my people and for my society. That's the very simple answer. And then I think one of the things that we really need to be careful about anti-normalization, especially the form that it's taking today, is that it is quite dangerous and, may I say, catastrophic for the Palestinian freedom cause. The fact that it is taking a stance under the assumption of the irredeemability of the Israeli society in many ways. If you think that Israeli society is irredeemable, it's just inherently immoral. How can they look at what's happening, and how can they, endure what is happening and not say anything? They're all settler colonials, and they should go back to Poland. Obviously, that's like the very extreme criticism of anti-normalization. But there's also, various ways where it's just not. You shouldn't be able to organize Israelis. That's not a thing. We will save you from outside, or the Palestinians will uprise and they will save themselves, right? And I think in many ways that concludes the political impossibility of Palestinian freedom. It really is something that can be extremely dangerous for our cause, especially now as a Palestinian movement abroad that is gaining a lot of momentum. I think we are at a critical point where Palestinians around the world and Palestinian solidarity movement around the world need to understand that we also, one of the most important components of Palestinian freedom is building a new majority and a political will within Israeli society. And I think my part as a Palestinian is to build as much Palestinian leadership as possible that demands our recognition as Palestinian, our freedom as Palestinians, our equality as Palestinians, but also our part and leadership within Israeli society. I think that's one of the most important, critical things that we can do towards Palestinian Israeli peace.
Thank you, Sally. That was a very, very comprehensive answer. I'm sure it answered a lot of questions about this. Thank you. The next question I have is for Angela. So if Angela can come back onto the screen. Maybe. Okay. I'm working on getting Angela onto the screen, but she can hear me. So Angela, the next question is about hello, you're here. Is about the silencing. Someone asked a question around the silencing of Jewish students on campuses in the US. Maybe if you want to sort of read the question if you said it, and tell us what you think about that.
This is an interesting question, actually, because just 2 days ago, Jewish students visited our community hubs, Jewish students from abroad, and listened to us talking about our fear as Palestinian students in the Israeli campuses. And we listened to them sharing their fears back. Like, I don't know if the word was silence. They haven't talked about being silenced, but they did express feelings like being intimidated. One of the students even said, I feel safer here than I do back home in the US. And it's legit. It's a legit sentence. That day, I wore my kufi in front of them, and it triggered them. And they even communicated that to me. So I explained the patterns, like the olive branches, the bold lines, the fishnets. So what I'm trying to say is that fear and insecurity are universal, and they shouldn't be weaponized against each other. Listening to each other allows us to humanize our struggles. I wore my caffeine that day not to provoke, but to honor my heritage. And when it caused discomfort, I used it as an opportunity to explain its meaning. So safety on campus isn't just about physical well-being, it's about fostering spaces for honest dialogues. While our fears may differ in origin, yeah, obviously, they have a shared impact. And recognizing that can help us build mutual understanding and solidarity, in my opinion, at least. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you, Angela. I think we had one last one. We had a lot of questions about kind of what people can do from abroad. I think we know a lot of you are sitting at home, and many of you have found, protests and groups, and some of you are organizing with our groups abroad as well, and doing whatever you can to sort of have an impact on the situation. And so a lot of people are still asking, what more can people do from abroad? I guess also beyond just donating to us and supporting work on the ground. Any thoughts on what people can do from abroad?
So I would say, first of all, thank you for this question, because it shows solidarity in and of itself. I think that we would love for people to amplify voices from Israel-Palestine, talking about this war and about the conditions instead of talking about us. Listen to us. The second thing is, of course, do not leave us alone. If you can support standing together, that would go a long way and would help us immensely to do the work on the ground. Another thing is demand your governments to play their part. I think that you should demand your government to tell the Israeli government it's time to stop. I think that you should tell your government to tell the Israeli government that this blank check policy is over. I think that you should ask your government to do all that with the Israeli government, stop selling arms to the Israeli government because it's helping them to prolong the war, but also to demand your government to, while doing all that, speak with the Israeli society. Talk with Israeli society and tell us that you are doing that. You're blocking and stopping the selling of arms to the Israeli government out of solidarity with the people of Gaza, out of solidarity with the people in the West Bank, and also out of solidarity with the people of Israel. Because at the bottom line, we all have the same interest. Now, don't get me wrong, of course, my situation is way, 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 way better than someone in Gaza, of course, than someone in the West Bank, and also better than Sally, because I'm safer here in Israel than Sally. But we have the same interest, the interest of peace and ending this war. So demand your governments to help us do that while we are doing the work on the ground. And I will finish with saying that we feel that people around the world feel like they have to choose a side, they have to pick a side. We want to tell you, yeah, you should absolutely pick a side. There's a right side here, but don't be confused, and tell your friends, do not be confused. The sides are not as follow. All Palestinians with Hamas against all Israelis with Netanyahu, Ben Gvir, and Smotrich. Those are not the sides. The real sides are the warmongers in one side, and there is an imbalance of power, don't get me wrong. And as an Israeli citizen, I think that Israel is responsible for the overall situation, but the warmongers in one side, because we know that our right-wing government supported Hamas for many years. They're feeding from one another, and they are on one side, and the other side is the people, Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Israel, and Jewish people in Israel, who all deserve the same basic right to dream and then plan and then build a future. Support that side, support the side of the people.
Beautifully said, Itamar. I'm not sure I have anything to add. Just support the people and understand that this is much more, everything that you do, just ask yourself and ask people who you face or who challenge you, what is what you're doing actually trying to change reality, or is it trying to describe reality in the most accurate way, in the way that you see it? And I think in many ways, abroad, you have been facing a lot of, everyone's trying to describe and criticize reality, and the way that they see it in the most fit way. And that's been the main base of contention, without actual, real efforts, not lack of a willingness to actually change, but it's not actually asking the real difficult question of how do we change our reality. And yes, organize around your local politicians and your national politicians. Itamar and I, there's right now a law that might actually prevent us from saying things like that, about conditional aids, as elected officials, talk about these things, talk about these laws, talk about, what this Israeli government is doing, and try to understand how you can change that relations with your government. And it's not because it's something against Israelis. When you actually do these things and organize against the Israeli government, you're doing it for the Israeli people as well as for Palestinians. And you need to understand that, and you need to say that very proudly and lead that voice very proudly.
Thank you. We are finished with the questions. I just wanted to ask you guys if you can say a few words to everyone with us tonight about kind of what the next few months or coming year looks like for us. What are the sorts of things that we are asking for support to do, and what our kind of overarching aims are for the coming year.
Standing together today, if we're really looking at the political field in Israel, for many years now, the right wing, settler right wing, both, by the way, political, but also economic, has been leading the field without competition. I always say, my analogy is, a football field, soccer for Americans, field without a goalie. And they've been just like scoring, and they have been really normalizing this far-right, radical, fascist politics for many years now. And that's all that the public has been seeing. And the Israeli public has one item in the menu, and it has different shades and different, levels of let's say, of radicalization. But it really is a very, very similar voice across the spectrum. And I think what Standing Together aims to do now, and what it is aiming to do in the upcoming months and upcoming years, is create that weight that will actually compete. And in order for us to compete, we need to provide the Israeli public with a new kind of item that they can choose from, that they can order, that they can eat, that they can, select from the menu. And that one, really, that item is one of peace, one of prosperity, one of equality, and that really goes through ending the occupation and really political, diplomatic solutions. And it is connected also to economic prosperity and to gender equality and to our own personal security on the streets and to climate justice. And I think this new kind of different items on the menu, they are the real items that people really aspire to see and want to choose from, which is, one of the biggest sources of hope for us, and what really keeps us going, because we truly believe that's what people want to choose. And in order for them to be able to choose it, we need to be loud enough, we need to be big enough, and we need to be competitive. And to do that, we just need a lot of organizing and a lot of resources and a lot of steadfastness and relentlessness. And I think we have what it takes. Yeah.
And maybe I'll add very briefly. So there is the peace campaign, a very big peace campaign that we are building. We already started under the title of Yes, Peace. Right now, if you walk in cities in Israel, you'll see a lot of signs, thousands actually of signs of Yes, Peace that we brought to people. But it's not only the Yes, Peace campaign. We are going to build the humanitarian guard and to make it much, much, much stronger this year, 2025. The humanitarian guard stopped the violent settlers from stopping the aid from coming into Gaza. We are going to Eastern Jerusalem to protect people. We are going to the West Bank to protect people. And we are going to really put a lot of attention and focus on the humanitarian guard, because it can really make a difference. And also one very important thing, and very dear to me, because this is my job in Standing Together, a lot of trainings for activists. This weekend we have 2 seminars actually with over 50 people that spend the whole weekend learning about organizing and mobilizing and movement buildings. We recognize the lack of leadership in the country, and in Standing Together, and by the way, especially after October 7th, so many young people joined. You saw Omri, you saw Angela, they were there before, but so many young students came to Standing Together, a lot of Palestinians, a lot of Jewish, and they are amazing, and they are the future of this country, and we are going to give them the right words and the right tools and the right theory of change through seminars, through all those activities, and this is something we are going to do a lot in 2025.
Thank you. And just before we wrap up, I just want to say a few words from all of us. That, to reiterate, I mean, it's obvious by now, but Standing Together, we're advocating for and organizing our communities across the country for a ceasefire and a hostage deal. We want an end to the war in order to protect people's lives in Gaza, and to bring back the Israeli hostages. From day one, the lives of these people has had the same fate. And so we believe that really the only way to save so many innocent lives on both sides is a ceasefire and a hostage deal. We are working towards the end to the occupation, the end to military control over millions of Palestinians that don't have any, civil rights or political rights to the society, like to the leadership that occupies them. And a just and sustainable Israeli-Palestinian peace that is grounded in freedom, equality, and independence for all. And our way of working towards all of this is from within our society and organizing diverse communities to create a new majority in Israeli society that can build the political demand for these things. So we don't wait for leaderships to decide that these are the things they want to do. We don't just, protest and make sure that our voices are heard. What we want to do is fundamentally change the majority in our society. We want to create a new majority of people so that any leadership that is elected and that is supposed to represent us knows that our demand is peace, and our demand is an end to the occupation, and our demand is equality for everyone. And that is how we're doing it. That is what we're doing. And we also urge you to take our lead and organize your communities abroad, whether it's with the Standing Together chapters, as an individual, whatever it is. We really urge you to join this kind of approach to creating a grassroots, a new majority. There's many societies around the world that can benefit from that. And you're organizing, toward our peace and freedom and a new future helps all of us at the end of the day. You can find links to WhatsApp groups and social media pages for all of the local chapters in our link tree on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. And again, I wanted to say that Standing Together since the beginning of the war, and also before that, I mean, in general, since our inception, we're the largest Jewish Arab grassroots movement within Israel. And since October 7th, since the war started, we've only grown. So we have 12 local chapters. We have 14 student chapters. We have over 6,000 paying members. So those are people, activists within Israeli society that choose to pay a monthly fee to become a member of the movement. And 3,500 friends of Standing Together. So that's people abroad who are choosing to support Standing Together on a monthly basis. And what it means is you become a sustaining monthly member, and you also get access to conversations online and events with us that are exclusive to Friends of Standing Together. So it's an online sort of international community of lots of different networks around the world. And we really, any support that you feel able to give, that you can give to us, will be deeply, deeply appreciated. We are, almost a year and a half into this horrific reality. And I think I can say on behalf of all of us in Standing Together, the thing that has given so many of us hope and that has enabled so many of us to survive this period and also like really act and really do things to change the reality in our society, is the work that we do with Standing Together. So your donations are tax deductible. It's a great time to sign up to become a friend of Standing Together, to join a local group as well, and to make a one-off donation if you feel that you're able to. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to keep following us on social media. You can also join our newsletter, which is also, you can find it in our on our website, which is also linked in our link tree on social media. Thank you so much, and we will see you at the next webinar.
مع